I was in the field for almost 28 years, in a special unit that deals with behavioral patterns of serial killers. Long were the nights where we conducted interviews with deranged people. Sociopaths, psychopaths, killers, rapists, you name it. The thing is that all my cases were a bit different from your regular serial killing types. There were always a few cases in a year where I didn't have any logical explanation for what happened there and then. I've seen all kinds of crazy and all kinds of motives for why they did what they did. Some said that the voices in their head were to blame. Others said that the devil made them do it. One guy once said that he had a holy mission from God to cleanse the earth of all the sinners and so on. Another that his neighbor's cat was a goddess that liked to eat hearts. Their stone-cold faces always made me ask myself, what lied inside that mind of theirs? What could happen to you that you became this downright psychopathic killer with no respect for all living things? I guess it's like a wise man once said, we're all crazy. Some were unlucky enough to get committed into mental institutions, while the lucky ones are still outside. For some, it started in their early childhood days. Having an abusive mother, you'd go on to hate all women, and then they'd start torturing small animals, and enjoy their pain while the helpless things writhed and contorted until giving their final breath. Many of them always pleaded for insanity in court, and it rarely held as a way of salvation. They usually seemed normal, respected folks of the towns and cities they lived in. Some had stable jobs, nice families, and a place to call home. They'd smile in family photos, have dinner parties with barbecues with friends, laugh and cheer and remember the good times. They seemed like normal people, functioning people, going about their daily business. But when night fell, they'd go out and prey on unsuspecting victims, bashing their heads in or doing God knows what other vile and disgusting things. Those vile and disgusting things were what made this case a stomach-churning, gut-wrenching, and hard-to-forget shit show. I was called by a police officer friend of mine who, 2 states down, who told me he had a really weird one on his hands. They'd found 2 dead bodies, a man whose eyes were gouged out. He'd been found near the woods, and a woman who had her tongue cut out. There seemingly was no connection between them, but get this. They both had dead spiders placed on their foreheads. This was the most awkward thing ever. I mean, the killer already took his trophies from them, but why would they leave something behind? Anyway, I agreed to go with my partner and see how we could help the people there, because as my friend Hank told me on the phone, everyone in that small community was utterly terrified, himself included. I tried to calm him down, and my buddy Travis and I cruised down there the next day. We arrived at the station and looked at the photos of the victims. They looked like they had seen a ghost right before they died. Upon closer inspection, we noticed that on each of their right side of the abdominal muscles there were small incisions that looked almost like insect bites, although a bit larger. The best description I've thought of was that something with scalpels for teeth might have done it. We went to see the bodies in person and asked the mortician to try to open up the incision wounds. He did it first for the man, and just at the moment he pushed his very own scalpel inside, live spiders started coming out of the dead body. Hundreds, if not thousands, of tiny little spiders invaded the morgue room, and we had to call it an insect exterminator. I know that the old saying goes, if you wish to live and thrive, let a spider walk alive. But there were thousands of them, crawling about. So we got out of that room as fast as we could, and the exterminator came in about an hour. Too much time, I thought, and we went back in to see the whole room, and the 2 dead bodies were lying on the table, covered completely in spider webs. Like literally there wasn't one free inch where you could have seen through. So the guy pulled out his special vacuum cleaner for stuff like that, and he started cleaning the place up. I looked carefully at the cobwebs. I didn't know why. Probably because I was always attracted to these kinds of patterns you see in nature. And as I was looking at them, I saw something in one of them that made it stand out from the rest. It looked like there were words in it. I pulled the vacuum plug and ordered the exterminator to stop. Then I called Travis, and we both inspected it. Travis, am I completely losing my mind, or are you seeing this too? I asked my partner. You aren't going crazy, buddy, he replied. Out of nowhere, right in front of us, we saw the cobweb scramble into words. The message read, "You don't belong here. Go away, or else." I remember I started shaking uncontrollably, frightened out of my mind, while Travis turned white, like all blood and color had just vanished from his face. Like that poof, like they weren't even there in the first place. We both blinked, looked at each other, and back at the web, there was nothing there. We wiped our eyes, and it looked normal. "What the fuck just happened?" Travis asked. "This is very strange, man," I told him, feeling my heart throbbing inside my chest. Hank busted through the door and told us there'd been another victim found in an alley behind the local supermarket. We all hopped into his car and went to the location. We got there and saw the poor bastard crucified to the wall, his whole skin separated from the body, and spiders were sewn together and placed on his head like a crown. Some of them were even still moving. But get this. The sick fuck who stripped him clean of his skin used it to cover him back with it. Like he plastered it all over his body. Hank started vomiting his guts out upon seeing the sickening and grotesque expose, and Travis and I couldn't move for a few minutes. Whoever did this was one of the most twisted fucks in existence. That poor, poor guy. We found out afterwards that he wasn't even from town. He was just visiting some relatives for a barbecue. So we went back to the station, and we were so goddamn pissed off we didn't have any leads, any witnesses, any CCTV footage. I mean, there were surveillance cameras installed over town, but the fucker chose to do those things exactly where he couldn't be seen. Anyway, the secretary there told us she had an envelope for us, for Travis and me. She said that a friend of Hank's brought it earlier, and the three of us were out inspecting the murder site. When Hank asked who the friend was, she said that it was Thomas Williams, that was his name. At that very moment, in the exact second she pronounced that name, Hank started shaking uncontrollably, barely managing to stand. We helped him sit on a visitor chair, and I gave him a glass of water and splashed some on his face, too. He looked at both of us and told us that his friend had died in a car crash over 20 years ago. They were really good friends, and he had a photo with him that he kept in his office. It was from a fishing trip back in the day. So after he got his shit together, we took the photo and showed it to the lady. She confirmed that was the person in the photo. It was the same one who brought the envelope. So after he got his shit together, we went and took the photo and showed it to the lady. She confirmed that the person in the photo was the same one that brought the envelope. She also told us that before he left, he told her to send his best regards to Hank and his family, and that he'll be in contact very soon. Maybe crack a cold one to remember the good old days. Hank was having a panic attack, and we called the doctors to give him a sedative, tone him down a bit. "Easy there, buddy, easy, take it easy," I told him while wiping the sweat from his forehead with a handkerchief. "What the hell is happening here, Sam?" he asked me. I just shook my head and told him it was going to be alright, and we were going to figure this thing out. Truth be told, I had no fucking idea what to do. With all my experience in the field, this shit was going to be too much for me to bear. Anyway, I don't like complaining, but this was something extremely out of the ordinary. So I took the envelope and opened it carefully, and I saw it was addressed to both me and Travis. "Dearest special agents of the FBI, you have until midnight to leave this place. There is nothing you can do to me. I am terror. I am fright. I am the demon of the night. Leave." The whole page was decorated with cobwebs, and a spider was drawn in the bottom right-hand corner, as if the perpetrator wanted to let us know he meant serious business. I was in awe of everything that was going on in the station, in the town, and in this life of mine. Hank finally got himself together and we went into his office. We didn't have any fucking ideas on what needed to be done and we were at a loss for words. One thing was certain, though. Actually, two things. Firstly, what was happening was extremely bizarre and terrifying. And second, we had a serial killer on the loose. Shit. The night was falling, and there was a tension in the air that I couldn't quite place. I began wondering what would happen if we didn't leave before midnight. Of course, we didn't even think to give in to this psycho's demands. Remember, this was before the internet was a huge thing, before live streams and things like that. We didn't want to get the press involved, because if we did, we had to give some pretty unplausible explanations for the situation. Hank said he wanted to go home and make sure his family was safe. I'll be back in a half hour or so. If anything happens, radio me in and I'll come as quick as possible, Frank told me before he got into his car. Then I heard a very high-pitched scream inside the station. We all did. Frank got back out of his car and we all went inside. A man with a black hood on his head was just staring at the secretary lady. She was just standing there, completely frozen. We didn't get to see his goddamn face, and we quickly drew our guns at him. He scoffed and began laughing in a sort of morbid, low-pitched tone. Then I saw the secretary's head twisting on the right and snapping. The fucker threw a spider on her face and wanted to run away. We started shooting, firing the whole fucking pistol clip into him, but he didn't move or fall. He just stood there and laughed again. Then he just walked towards us. "My turn now," he said while we just stood there, rendered unable to move. He started unzipping his hoodie only to reveal a skinless upper body. His eyes were two bottomless black holes and he spoke without opening his mouth. He stood a few inches in front of us. Travis started shaking with fear and Hank managed to get a grip and shot a few more bullets into the guy. But it only pissed him off more than he already was. The killer looked at Hank and a jet black stream of spiders shot him straight in the face. They were crawling on him, trying to get into his mouth. "Stop," I yelled. "Leave him alone, please." He looked at me and the motherfucker smiled and spiders started crawling on his face this time. "There's no point in trying to stop me. I am eternal. You want that fat-ass cop to live? You leave this place. Stop trying to dig in any further. Understood?" Spider Killer said. "Yes, just leave him alone, please," Travis told him. Terrified with what had just happened, we didn't know what to do, and so we did the only thing we wanted us to do. We left. Right before we did leave, though, he told us to never return to that city. Nor were we allowed to speak to Hank for the next 3 years. He added that his work there is done, and if he wanted, he could wipe out the whole city in a matter of seconds. He just wanted to build his body again, but it takes time, he said. "You see, sometimes I'm a snake. Other times I'm a black cat, a crow. But at this very moment, I am a spider. I am 1,000,000 spiders." And with that, he just vanished into thin air, his clothes falling on the ground. Even to this day, I don't know what the hell happened. Out of fear, I never talked to Hank again, nor did I go back to that city. I guess there are things that we're not fully equipped to understand. We should just leave them alone. I checked the stats from that town. Since we left, there were no more killings. Only deaths occurring from natural causes. I fucking hate spiders.